The temptation of Jesus, the victory of the spirit over the shadows of matter. Kardec explains that the episode of the temptation in the desert symbolizes the confrontation between the pure spirit and the moral forces that still dominate the material world. Jesus, newly initiated in his divine mission, withdraws for reflection and silence. There, in isolation, he comes into contact with the vibrations of the collective thought of earth, imbued with pride, selfishness, and ambition, the same passions that the tempter personifies. The Satan that presents itself to him is not a real being, but the symbolic representation of the lower spiritual influences that still surround the planet. Spiritism clarifies that there are no fallen angels or spirits created for evil. There are only souls at different evolutionary stages. The lower spirits, trapped by passions, seek to drag the weaker ones into the same illusions. Temptation is, therefore, a phenomenon of fluidic tuning. The incarnate spirit picks up the mental vibrations that surround it, and resistance depends on the purity of its own vibration. Jesus, being a pure spirit, perceived these influences but did not assimilate them. He felt them to overcome, not to yield. Modern neuroscience shows that human temptations are based on brain mechanisms of reward and desire. Dopamine, linked to pleasure and expectation, is activated when the mind imagines power, wealth, or domination. But Jesus, with total self-control, transcended biological impulses, acting through divine consciousness, where good is the only reward. His victory symbolizes the overcoming of instinctive nature by spiritual consciousness. Kardec teaches that the three temptations described by the evangelists are allegories of the three great trials of the human soul. 1. Bread, a symbol of material needs, the temptation of the body. Answer 2. The pinnacle of the temple, a symbol of vanity and pride, the temptation of the ego. 3. The kingdoms of the world, a symbol of power and ambition, the temptation of domination. Jesus overcomes all, showing that the elevated spirit lives from truth and love, not from the fleeting illusions of the world. The quantum physics of consciousness offers an interesting parallel. It demonstrates that reality manifests according to the vibrational frequency of the observer. Dense thoughts and emotions collapse lower possibilities, while the pure mind manifests luminous realities. Jesus, vibrating in total coherence with divine energy, could not tune in with darkness. His consciousness operated at a frequency of light, making him immune to the influence of passions. Transpersonal psychology interprets the desert as the symbol of inner emptiness, the place where the ego falls silent and the spirit reveals itself. Every soul, before ascending, traverses the desert, the period of solitude, trial, and confrontation with its own shadows. Jesus, when tempted, represented the inner drama of all of us, the struggle between the lower self and the divine self. He overcame to teach us that the strength to resist lies in living according to the consciousness of God. The physics of resonance and energy biology teach that similar vibrational fields attract each other. Therefore, negative spiritual influences find access only where there is a compatible vibration. The spirit that cultivates good and love creates a natural luminous barrier around itself. Jesus, in a state of absolute purity, radiated a light that dissolved lower vibrations, and this light is the symbol of the spirit victorious over matter. Kardec shows that the temptation of Jesus is also the transition point between man and Christ. By rejecting the illusions of power, pride, and wealth, he confirms his universal mission to free the spirit from the chains of the world. From that moment on, the word replaces bread, faith replaces dominion, and love replaces fear. Temptation is overcome not by force, but by the vibrational elevation of consciousness. The moral science of the gospel reveals that every thought is a choice between light and shadow. Temptation is the invitation of the shadow. Faith is the response of the light. Jesus showed that true freedom is not in satisfying desires, but in not being a slave to them. His victory in the desert is the model for the spiritual emancipation of conscious man. Modern psychology also confirms that resisting temptation is not about repressing desire, but understanding its cause and redirecting it towards higher values. Jesus did not deny bread, power, or prestige. He simply redefined their spiritual meaning, showing that true nourishment is love, true power is service, and true glory is humility. Spiritism teaches that each soul goes through its own evolutionary temptations until it conquers the mastery of will over passions. Temptation is the proving ground where the spirit learns to choose the light. Jesus, by overcoming his own, elevated the vibration of the earth, strengthening humanity on the path of moral redemption. Understanding the temptation of Jesus is understanding the process of one's own evolution. The desert is the world. The tempter is pride. The victory is the serenity of the spirit that trusts in God. If this reflection has brought you courage and discernment, share it. Because understanding the temptation of Jesus is recognizing that true strength is the inner purity that transforms evil into wisdom and pain into light.